I guess the big news is the preseason has come to a close, Coach. The Sens roster is effectively set for the most part. There might be some tweaking. In fact, there was one just before we came and started recording in that Parker Kelly was called up from Belleville, and Andrew Agazzino, who was placed on waivers, was sent down to Belleville. So Kelly is an addition at this stage of the game. So it's a pretty full roster still. I guess they might make a few cuts here still. But you've got 8 defensemen. They're carrying 8 defensemen to start the season by the look of it. It's Shabbat Zub, Delzato Zaitsev, Brandstrom Holden, then Victor Mete and Josh Brown. And DJ Smith was pretty clear about this on the defense. You got Shabbat and Zub, and it doesn't sound like they have a real handle yet on what the D pairings are exactly going to look like. And my question for you is that weird? Like, as we record this, the regular season openers 3 days away. You had a full training camp and a full preseason. How can you not have your 3, 4, and 5, 6 guys selected at this stage?
Yeah, I don't know that weird's the right word. Let's say abnormal. Let's say shockingly abnormal. Like I'm with you, Steve. You've had a full training camp. This is the National Hockey League. You have all these analytics. You have all this video to go with from before they even got here to what they did through training camp and all these exhibition games. And now it comes time to make a choice, and they don't seem to be able to. I wonder if they're they're nervous about pulling the trigger on Brandstrom and sending him down. They don't want to do that. Is it a confidence thing? They might shatter the poor kid, or is that it? Because or honestly, Steve, do you think that somebody has played themselves into that 8 slot, or do you think that maybe Brandstrom has played himself into the top 7, and that's the factor here?
I think if there's somebody that's played their way out of it would be Delzato. I don't have any interest in him in my top 6 at this moment in time. Just based on what I've seen in the preseason, they may give him the benefit of the doubt because of his NHL body of work and the fact that he's got a 2-year contract with the club. But I mean, if you're judging things on merit, and it'd be nice if everything was a meritocracy in the NHL. We all know it's not. But if it were, Delzato would be heading for a waivers situation and being on the bus to Belleville, in my opinion.
No, I would agree with you. He has not done what was expected of him. He has not shown as well as the team would have hoped for sure. He's not shown as well as I thought he would. And yeah, it's kind of scary. So, is there a nagging injury there? Is he working through something? They want to give him the benefit of the doubt, give him a little more time. So, we're going to stick with 8 for a while and then make a decision. Is there a trade in the work somewhere? Are they talking to somebody about something about moving one of these 8? I mean, really, it's not like you're going to get hurt if you send out any of these 8 guys. Like, let's face it, after you get past the first 2, it's flip a coin. Nobody stands out, right?
Yeah. I think it'll be, by just reading the tea leaves, it feels like opening night. We may see, after Zub and Shabbat, we may see Mete with Zaitsev and then Brandstrom and Holden, the Vegas connection, I guess you might say. Sounds like, just based on discussion, there's a good chance that might be your 3, 4, and 5, 6 pairings. But then you have the angle of, what about Josh Brown? I'm cognizant of the fact this team does not have Austin Watson. He suffered an ankle injury, so he's out for a month. And Brady Tkachuk, who knows when he's going to be back with this contract holdout. It's starting to look pretty soft, with all due respect. You don't have a lot of guys out there that are going to be able to protect some of these very, very young skill guys. So I wonder if you could go without a Josh Brown or not.
Yeah, that's a good point, Steve. And don't forget also that DJ loves Josh Brown and the
Right.
what he brings. So it's difficult to say. I mean, it's going to be a flux situation there with the bottom. We always thought the bottom 3 was going to be in flux. Well, maybe it's the bottom 5 will be in flux as the year goes along. Don't automatically pencil in Delzato for the press box, though. Again, pedigree, free agent signing. It just I don't think I can see him being scratched in game 1. I think he'll still get to play in game 1, much the same way of the opening night lineup last year. Despite how some of them might have played, some of those veteran guys got into the lineup anyway. So Yeah, what do you do with a Josh Brown without what do you do with this lack of toughness in your lineup? Where's your grit going to come from? And you're absolutely right. They're beyond Austin Watson, and you don't have Brady Tkachuk. You don't really have a physical presence up front or on the back end. So Josh Brown may find himself playing a lot more often than we all hoped he would, and he may get a lot more minutes than anyone would have expected.
That is a tough one. We commented at the end of last season how big a miss Austin Watson was. You look at the score sheet or the stat sheet in terms of the seasonal play of the Ottawa Senators, you might not say, "Oh boy, Austin Watson is a big miss," but there's a lot of intangibles there, isn't there?
Yeah, and he's a guy we like. Let's face it, right from the get go, you and I both had him. Yeah, we're protecting Austin Watson. Like we
Right.
proclaimed him, although the class isn't the greatest, we proclaimed him as the head of the class of the free agent signings from last off season, right? Not a lot of competition there for him to beat, but he did beat them out and he was the best free agent signing. And what he brings is needed up front. You'd prefer it to be in a guy playing on your third line and not your fourth line, so there's more minutes there. But yeah, that's a big loss, and it was a big loss last year too, right? And let's not forget he also kills penalties. He plays on your PK. You've got Formenton there, you've got Norris there, you got Pinto there, and Brown and Paul. You know, you need Austin Watson to help with the PK with Colin White out now too, right? So it is a loss, and it'll be interesting to see how they compensate and who gets those minutes moving forward here.
So let's look at the rest of the roster on the forward side of things. Of course, Philip Gustafson got sent down. We'll talk about him in a moment. So your goaltending tandem is Matt Murray and Anton Forsberg, which comes as a surprise to absolutely no one. As far as forwards go, this is how it lays. You got Stutzla, Norris, Batherson, Paul, Pinto, Brown, Formanton, Tierney, Ennis. I think we talked about Tyler Ennis re-signing in our last episode, but in case we have not, that was a one-year contract that he signed. Then Zach Sanford, Logan Shaw, and Scott Sabrin. And as mentioned earlier, Parker Kelly has been called up from Belleville, and probably DJ Smith is cognizant of the very thing we just talked about. Maybe this team needs a little more edge than they currently have, maybe just a little bit too much skill. Is Parker Kelly the right option, do you think?
Well, from anything I've ever heard about Parker Kelly, yes, he will do anything and everything that you ask of him, and can fill a role. I don't know that he's much more than bottom, fourth line guy. It'd be nice if he could play in a middle six, but he's probably just a fourth line guy. I mean, we talked last week of thinking that Andrew Agazino was probably the fourth line center. All of this, of course, because Clark Bishop is injured. So who was your fourth line center? With Colin White out, yada yada. What are you going to do? Is it Agazino? Is it Parker Kelly? Is it, Ridley Gregg's gone? He might have been nice to keep around for the 10 games. So who is that fourth line guy? You tell me. Right now,
Well,
well,
probably Logan
yeah.
Shaw. You mentioned that in the last episode, and I think you're right. It's probably going to be Logan Shaw, and he too can provide a bit of edge. Although, if that's the way the lineup looks, Zach Sanford, Logan Shaw, Scott Sabrin, mix in a Parker Kelly somewhere in there, and you can probably take your pick between Sanford, Sabrin, and Kelly as to who sits out on any given night.
Ooh.
That's not the most amazing fourth line I've ever seen.
No, that's a little scary, huh? Wow. The drop off is wow. I don't know what else to say. I mean, you've got a
Yeah.
huge hole to fill without Brady Tkachuk. You've got Alex Formanton playing up there, and good for him. Here's an opportunity for him to establish himself as a top six forward. But I think that in a perfect world, everyone had him projected in on your third line. So now you got him playing on your first line. That kills your third line effectiveness to a certain degree. Like Tyler Ennis isn't going to fill in for Alex Formanton. So you've got a drop off there, then you've got a further drop off down to the fourth line. Who would have ever thunk that Colin White's gone? Ooh, maybe we're not so strong anymore in the bottom six. You would never, you wanted to get rid of him completely. So, what are you thinking about the bottom six here?
If Chris Tierney can maybe have a little more jump than he did last year, that's going to help a lot. I like Tyler Ennis. I think I said in the last episode, the fact that he's back with the team immediately, because 2 years ago I thought to myself, okay, nice placeholder, little band-aid solution there. The fact that he's back, though, with the club in a year where they said the rebuild is over, that guy has signed 4 straight one-year contracts, which by definition almost, I think, is a Band-Aid solution. But I do like the player still. I think he's got good puck skill. I don't mind him on a third-line scenario. And whether, I don't know who's going to be on the left side with Tierney and Ennis. Is it Formanton? Is it Nick Paul? So not bad, but certainly that bottom three, I don't think they're going to be able to give them too much ice time, particularly because Zach Sanford came in, and I'm starting to see why the Blues were willing to part with him, and why I read so many articles about Sanford, getting a bit of a hard time from the fans. Both teams, I think, decided, okay, Logan Brown for Zach Sanford, that was going to be okay. Give them both a change of address because we're done looking at them. We're tired of looking at them. And I got to say, having seen Zach Sanford so far in the preseason, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that I'm tired of looking at him already. That would be too much. But I was not impressed with him in the preseason so far. So that's a
Yeah,
concern for
and
sure.
I got to back up on one. I jumped the gun there. I've got Formanton, by the way, playing on the, in case you didn't catch that, I have Formanton being in the top line. I know that Stutzla is penciled in there for now, but I just think that for the sense of some sort of balance and trying to have at least two lines that can bring some offense, you almost have to play Stutzla with Brown and Pinto so that you can play Formanton with Norris and Batherson. That at least gives you two groups of three there that can bring some offense. Now, I don't know. It looks like they're going to start with Stutzel on the top line in Tkachuk's spot, and we'll see how long that lasts. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Formanton moved up, Stutzla moved down to play with Brown and Pinto. But we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I could see all three of the left wingers, Stützle, Paul, and Formanton. If things don't go well in the early going, DJ Smith will probably get loose, mixing those guys up a little. Even Zach Sanford might move up the lineup a little bit. Who knows? But again, I've not been impressed so far. 6'4", 207 pounds, and you took on this $2 million cap hit for this year. And I don't know. I'm not seeing much in the way of productivity because he's certainly not using his body and he's certainly not creating a lot. But that's preseason, and maybe he flicks a switch when the regular season begins.
And
Now, our DunrobinDistilleries.com web poll today was basically, well, everything we've been talking about. We wanted to know what you think. I put that out at TSN Steve on Twitter. With the Sens preseason schedule now in the books, what do you think of the 2021-22 roster? Kevin McNamara has tweeted at us. The young core gets another year to develop, not yet a playoff or contending team. A tough division to crack the top four. Stay the course and don't bring any bad contracts. We will regret, like a Del Zotto, when does spending to the cap and the unparalleled success start exactly? In fact, Greg, right now, I'm not sure what's happened in terms of juggling the numbers. I was looking at Cap Friendly today. The Senators are back under the floor, so they're only by a couple of $100,000, but there they are back under the floor again. So I guess with all the guys being farmed out and whatnot, and the final roster being made, they still have some shuffling around to do. But Kelly's back up. Maybe that's enough. I don't know exactly, but
yeah, no, no.
yeah, they're
But
not exactly anywhere
there
close to spending close to the cap.
but there's a factor in Michael Del Zotto's favor to play in the lineup. You need that money in the
Right,
lineup. It's not just how much the roster's at, it's how much the guys on the ice add up to that matters. That's a big number too. That's why
right.
you saw nights last year, sorry, where Tampa was playing with less than a full roster because a full roster would have been over the cap. So yeah, that factors into Michael Del Zotto there. And I agree with you on Sanford with everything you said, except we kind of can't hold his contract against him because we need the damn $2 million. Right? We need that two
Yeah.
million dollar cap hit. So it's that juggling game. We talked about it all last year too, right? With the taxi squad business of what was going on. It's not an easy game to play sometimes when you're not 7 to 10 million clear of the floor.
By about a 3-1 margin, most of the responses are negative. Got one here from Hockey Steve. That's not me. Really looking forward to our top six, but after injuries, our bottom six looks pretty awful. Rudy O'Hearn writes, likely a lottery team unless Matt Murray plays much better this year. One injury to Norris or Pinto, and they are in trouble at center. And didn't we see that in the finale of the preseason? Give Norris and Pinto the night off, and
Mm.
whoa, absolutely no speed at all through the middle.
The biggest point here, and we've talked about it, is that there are so many things that have to happen, and if one of them doesn't happen, then the whole thing blows up. right? Like we said, okay, Pinto's got to establish himself. Norris has to get better. Not that he wasn't good, but he has to continue to progress. Stutzla has to progress. Formanton has to progress. Your newfangled blue line has to work out. Matt Murray has to bounce back, right? All of these things have to happen for there to be a glimmer of a hope of a possibly maybe we make the playoffs.